There is an ancient Cherokee proverb that states, "A woman's highest calling is to connect a man to his soul so he can unite with Source. A man's highest calling is to protect a woman so she can walk the earth unharmed." When a man or a system fails to protect a woman, they do not just injure her physical body. They fracture the sacred boundary of the soul itself. When a soul allows that type of transgression, its energy becomes misaligned, impacting all souls and energetic grids of the planet. Today, I will describe how my soul intuitively led me to help realign the hidden matrix mechanics of the global energetic grid through an unplanned meditation. I am going to show you how personal boundary violations, ancient timelines, and planetary structures are bound together in a perfect quantum loop. We are moving from the mystical heights of Kabbalistic Judaism to a high-stakes healing group in Israel. We will trace exactly how the universe mirrors our shadows back to us until we stand up, aligned with absolute energetic sovereignty. The Cherokee proverb is the grounding force of my soul's purpose and mission on earth. It is the direct counter-narrative to 2,000 years of Christian programming that falsely teaches men are the spiritual lead of the family, a lie that has shattered homes, hearts, and the world at large. Welcome to episode 6. My soul has been preparing me for this work my entire life. One of the most important spiritual guides in my recent healing journey has been the soul of my ex-husband's great-grandfather, Rabbi Shlomo Buzaglo. He was a revered Sephardic rabbi and the head of the rabbinical courts in Haifa, Israel, in the early 1900s. Starting in 2021, Rabbi Shlomo's soul became my constant guide, pointing me to the Kabbalah for spiritual guidance. Little did I know, he was helping prepare my soul to interface directly with the patriarchal energy emanating from religions created in Israel. My mission was to bypass that gatekeeping and access the divine feminine energetic grids buried deep in the pyramids of Egypt, known as the heart of the earth. My soul had created those codes at least 3,000 years ago and were waiting for my activation signal as the necessary step to unveil a global awakening. The roots of this Kabbalistic guidance run deep into the bedrock of Jewish history. The Buzaglo lineage traces directly back to the Sephardic Jewish communities who fled Judea when the Second Temple fell in 70 AD. They did not run blindly into the wilderness. They migrated along the established Roman maritime trade routes, connecting the eastern Mediterranean to major ports in Spain and southern France, the exact same coastal highway that the ancient French tradition states Mary Magdalene took when her boat washed ashore at Sainte Maryse de la Mer after the crucifixion. Centuries later in 1492, when the Christian monarchy launched its brutal inquisitions that forced Jews to convert, leave, or be killed, Jewish families fled to North Africa and Israel and are known as the Sephardic Jews. Many Jews took on the last name Buzaglo to commemorate their 1492 exile. This emotional pain was embedded in their souls and their DNA, which has been passed down through the generations. Now that you know the history, let's fast forward to December of 2025. I found myself participating in an online healing group based directly in Haifa, Israel. The man leading it was a retired judge named Shlomo Shoham, who is close with both Greg Braden and Dr. Bruce Lipton. Shlomo was the youngest appointed judge in Israel's history, a legal advisor to the parliament, and the nation's first ever commissioner for future generations. Look at the flawless cosmic mirror. The historical rabbinic judge, Rabbi Shlomo from Haifa, and the modern judicial judge Shlomo, also from Haifa. Judge Buzaglo was Sephardic, and Judge Shoham was Ashkenazi. My legal last name is Bozoglo, so I was standing before a living courtroom of divine justice, with a Sephardic Jewish last name as the reincarnation of Mary Magdalene. A connection that runs deep between Sephardic Jews and Mary Magdalene's teachings, mirrored in the Kabbalah. I was about to align the heart of the Earth's energy grid with the divine feminine codes inside of the pyramids of Egypt, finally showing which type of Judaism is more aligned with universal truths. Kabbalistic and Rabbinic Judaism view God through different lenses. Rabbinic Judaism focuses on a personal, relational God who interacts with humanity through law and history. In Kabbalah, the ultimate essence of God is an unmanifest, invisible, and boundless reality out of which everything is created, such as the quantum field or what Native Americans call source. For generations, the patriarchal rabbinic Ashkenazi establishment has used spiritual legalese to manipulate and gatekeep the raw creator energy of the divine feminine vortex. It overemphasizes the divine masculine, evidenced by its belief that the Messiah is only the divine masculine. Contrarily, the Kabbalah looks to the return of both the divine feminine and the divine masculine, bringing it into deeper alignment with universal truths. Shlomo Shoham had built a magnificent global persona, but his spiritual tower was leaning like the Tower of Pisa, built on soft, unstable, unhealed soil. These differences are grounded in Israeli society, with Ashkenazi rabbinic Jews projecting their self-imposed superiority over Sephardic Kabbalistic Jews. Here is an example. Historically, Bozoglos have been discriminated against in Israel. In the 1980s, the Israeli government administered the Bozoglo test, where Bozoglo kids and Ashkenazi kids answered questions on a Scantron test identically. Then teachers naturally graded the tests. Routinely, Bozoglos got 80%, where Ashkenazi kids got 100%. That is just one example of a real-world systemic bias against Sephardic Jews in Israeli society. Rabbi Bozoglo's soul had prepared me for this moment where I stood in the feminine teachings of the Kabbalah to eradicate the misaligned teachings of rabbinic Ashkenazi Jews, replacing them with highly aligned feminine energy in the heart of the earth. But where there is high spiritual light, the unhealed ego will instantly step forward with misaligned intent. On January 5th, 2026, I was participating in one of Shlomo's discussion groups led by two women. Even though I had shared my personal identity as the reincarnation of Mary Magdalene and weekly enlightenment experiences I had for 1.5 years, these female leaders tried to project their dominance and control over me. Instead of honoring my personal sovereignty, they immediately overstepped, trying to lecture me and tell me how I needed to heal myself. When they crossed a line, I drew a healthy boundary, leaving them in their crap and forcing my mirror into their own soul and not the other way around. I asked for an apology very directly. She immediately started making excuses, pointing to her supposed intent, not her regret for misaligned behavior. Instead of accepting her disrespect, I stood in my sovereignty. I explained how their entire program lacks healthy boundaries. I exposed the leader to his own team, stating, while telling Shlomo Shoham about my sexual abuse as a child, he asked me to join his spiritual healing group in Israel and told me I can give him a kiss there. Then, the other female leader stepped in to try to teach me to spiritually bypass my most painful emotions, telling me, just feel the good emotions. I cut right through her mind-based control and told her I had been experiencing enlightenment weekly for 1.5 years, so I know exactly how to process my emotions. It's inappropriate for you to tell me what to do. What those leaders failed to understand is that my divine feminine alignment was the fastest moving energy in the room, meaning their low vibrating energy was being triggered to the surface for me to help them heal, not the other way around. So I didn't need their left brain lectures on how to fix myself. I was there to be part of a group with opportunities to share myself, not be controlled and dominated by their lower vibrating, less aligned energy. As they were about to find out, they were there to align with my soul and the Shenandoah Promise. With all of this intense conflict in our space, they decided to lead all of us through a group meditation, and I agreed. I closed my eyes, left their unhealed matrix behind, and allowed my internal guidance to take over completely. As I traveled deep into my own soul, I was led to the pyramids in Egypt unexpectedly. Then I organically accessed the energetic grid inside of the pyramid to realign it with divine feminine energy my soul had placed there 3,000 years ago. I was accessing the ancient planetary grid of Egypt, the master control switch of the Earth's landmass. The Great Pyramid sits at the exact geographical heart of the Earth, anchored at the intersection of the longest line of latitude and longitude, making it the literal central processing unit, CPU, of our world. I brought my aligned divine feminine energy into the pyramid's energetic grid for everyone's benefit, naturally disrupting misaligned masculine structures, like the self-imposed superiority of the Ashkenazi Jews. I also kept hearing the word Pisa instead of Giza, which seemed weird at that moment, but made complete sense when I saw what my soul was actually showing me. Judge Shlomo Shohan's shadow, his unhealed Leaning Tower of Pisa. My astrological chart shows why I excel at shining light into people's shadow and the profound mysteries of death and rebirth. It indicates that my entire life is a devotional service to navigating the shadows. This placement aligns perfectly with Mary Magdalene's historical role as the exclusive witness to both the crucifixion and the resurrection. I am built as a living example of a Carl Jung quote. One does not become enlightened by imagining beings of light, but by making their darkness conscious. The more light I shine from my soul, the more darkness I can make conscious in others. The brighter my mirror is, the deeper others can dive into their darkness for healing purposes. I was in that Israeli group to shine my light, not the other way around. The date, January 5th, 2026, proves the mathematical validity of the energetic shift in the heart of the earth. The day number is a 5, the frequency of breaking old barriers. The full date reduces to a 7, the master day of deep spiritual initiation. And 2026 marks a universal year 1, the resetting of ancient 9-year karmic cycles. In the Kabbalah, 26 is the numerical value of an unpronounceable divine 4-letter name of God. Because the year ends in 26, the entire year operates under a master year matrix of divine justice, order, and structural truth. My soul's timing was perfect. Everything happens in divine timing, right? Exactly 17 days prior, on December 19th, 2025, Comet Atlas made its closest approach to Earth, perfectly fulfilling the ancient Hopi prophecy of the arrival of the blue Kachina, the absolute final sign before the great purification begins. On that exact same day, I introduced myself and the Shenandoah Promise to the Intertribal Buffalo Council as Sophia, signifying the official beginning of healing our wounds created during Manifest Destiny. 2 days later, I felt the raw, thunderous energy of a buffalo stampede charge straight through my own heart, the absolute spiritual signal of their acceptance. The number 17 is significant in Judaism. In ancient biblical timelines, the Great Flood, the ultimate historical Great Purification, began precisely on the 17th day of the second month. Conversely, Noah's Ark came to rest on Mount Ararat On the 17th day of the 7th month, the number 17 is structurally coded into the matrix as the specific cosmic frequency used to permanently close a corrupted timeline and safely anchor the survivors of the shift onto new elevated ground. So let's connect these three traditions with this global awakening. The second coming, a covenant written on our hearts, started on Shabbat Shuvah during the third weekend of September 2025, where I transmitted my 6 divine feminine self-love strategies globally through a massive enlightenment experience. Then the last sign of the beginning of the Great Purification happened on December 19th, 2025. Lastly, 2026 includes the number 26, indicating that the entire year operates under a master year matrix of divine justice, order, and structural truth. For me, that's enough to show me that we are in the global awakening where everyone learns how to have sovereignty over their own soul, jointly learning that self-love creates heaven on earth. Where is heaven in a holographic universe but in our personal projector, our heart, and our soul? The undeniable proof of the success of my energetic work in the pyramids occurred right after our group meditation ended. I shared why I felt buffalo running through my own heart daily when one of these same female discussion leaders suddenly gasped and stated she felt the buffalo running through her heart too. My soul used the buffalo to signal that these women were being pulled directly into my energy field in training with my soul and not the other way around. I was the most aligned soul in the room. Slower energy naturally aligns with the fastest moving frequency, with mine being my weekly enlightenment experiences. By standing in my authority, rejecting their projection, and calling out their lack of boundaries, I completed the lesson Rabbi Shlomo Bezaglo's soul had pointed me toward years prior. Stand with the teachings of the Kabbalah, inspired by Mary Magdalene, for divine alignment and individual sovereignty. Even though I mentioned Shlomo's transgression, he never contacted me, and I never returned to that program. His silence was the ultimate proof of his spiritual challenges. Updating the global matrix required me to stand completely alone in my power. It was the final, necessary global energetic work my soul had to complete before I could travel to Zion National Park in May of 2026 to permanently close the door on institutionalized Christianity, a door I had opened 2,000 years prior via my own lack of healthy boundaries. We cannot heal the planetary grids out there until we are willing to upgrade the sacred boundaries of our own hearts in our own souls. Changing the world is an inside job. Thank you so much for traveling the global block with me today. If this message resonated with you, please make sure to hit that subscribe button, drop a 5-star review, and share this episode with someone who is ready to reclaim their energetic sovereignty. Tune in next week for episode 7, where we are going to walk straight into the ultimate spiritual climax of my timeline. The Shenandoah Promise, Part 2, opening and closing the door on Christianity, reclaiming the way of love. In this upcoming episode, I will take personal responsibility for projecting my emotional wounds from the crucifixion onto our collective consciousness, culminating in the creation of institutionalized Christianity. You don't want to miss it, with my call to action at the end being a mic drop moment. Till next time, keep trusting your internal authority, keep surfing the waves of life, and remember, your boundaries are sacred, and heaven is an inside job. I'm Carrie Mae Blazer, the Red Pill Shaman, and I will see you in episode 7.